Okay, main entree, I hope you're hungry because we got both inflation and interest rates on the table. Yum!
Joining a fan club with my friends, filling our backbooks with t-shirts and 8x10. So dreamy, I'm in love from
Oof, what a day. We've got to give a violent update on the market and plays. Even Cathie Wood's flagship ARK fund ended the day slightly green. There is an old saying that if a Cathie Wood fund comes up from the ground and sees its own shadow, then that means that we're in for a long winter. But in all seriousness, the Sachs over at Goldman did the market quite dirty today, real dirty. Yet multiples are getting crunched so hard, you'd think that we're getting back to the Stone Age in terms of monetary policy. It's not going to be a rate anymore, it's just going to be a rock. If you can't service your margin via rock payments, then you're not going to be able to take out a loan anymore. I was looking very, very hard to find an actual picture of the Cathie Woods today, and you could see very clearly a sizable portion of the Cathie Woods have been cut down. Our on-the-ground ZipTrader research team actually managed to get an exclusive picture of the head lumberjack. I don't know if you recognize him, but he looks oddly familiar. But don't worry, he did mention that his decision to chuck wood is only transitory. In 2022, the market's teaching you, hey, if you buy the dip, you're gonna lose money. If you do your due diligence, you might even lose more money. In both market environments, you were taught the same lesson. Hey, fair value doesn't exist for stocks. The market is just gonna keep going up and up and up over your stupid fair value. And right now, the market's just gonna go down, 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 way below your fair value. But the issue is when you think really, really short-term time horizon, you totally ignore that cycles are normal. And we all know that cycles are normal. But the pain that you feel when you buy something at a price that you felt was right, and then it immediately dropped because of whatever catalyst, tells your emotional system that you're not meant for the market. You're a loser, you suck. Interest rates are going to be rising. Years of Fed tightening is ahead. Inflation is going to be so bad that your kids are going to be paying Elon Musk's entire net worth for a simple loaf of bread. So the Palin of the tier. Why is Palantir getting beat down? Well, it's because it's in the basket of growth tech. Ew, sell growth tech. If you went on CNBC this morning, you could see Jim Cramer calling companies that don't make money, quote, clown companies. They need to be profitable now, or they are clown companies, clown. Do not buy clown companies that are at 52-week lows. Buy value stocks that are at record high values. If there's a value stock, there's no need to check the valuation because value is in the name. So what does this mean in English? To get into those later stages, and that's what a lot of analysts are like, ew, they're putting money into getting new customers. That's terrible, short them. However, with equity chopping lumberjacks running amok through the market, pretty soon growth stock critics are going to be arguing that these companies are only worth the value of the toilets and plumbing system in their headquarters. The only value of a growth company is the value of the toilet. Okay? Any multiple on the value of the toilet is ridiculous and is a lie. January 21st, 2021, one South Korean won could buy you 0.00091 US dollars. Now, January 21st, 2022, that same one South Korean won only buys you 0.00084 US dollars. I hope you had your umbrellas and your ponchos out this morning because it was raining blood. But as Spider-Man once said, with great volatility comes great responsibility. Okay, I want to go ahead and start with this piece from the Stanleys over at Morgan proclaiming that winter is here for stocks. I believe that a big reason that the market is extra squeamish right now is because it knows that over the upcoming weeks, you're going to get a lot of companies reporting earnings, a lot of major companies reporting earnings, and they're going to be reporting guidance that resembles a punch to the throat. So the Fed still has to act on inflation at the same time where employment and economic data is going down. It's like having a horse that's running in last, trying to limp to the finish line, and then Jerome Powell coming out and breaking another one of its legs. Just simply rude and not good. The other day I was looking at comments and somebody said Palantir is going to go bankrupt. Trash company, just look at the stock. And I'm just thinking, what are you talking about? The company will go bankrupt because the stock price is down. Oh, I read a lot of analyst opinions because I'm a masochist. And then it costs money to make the business better. Why do you want your business to be better? Please just shoot out all the money to shareholders so we can buy our coffee with dividends. With the market in Teasy McTeasy mode, my take is that one shouldn't focus so much on trying to predict the short to medium term trajectory. Fine. To make an analogy, the market right now is a baby with a pacifier. The pacifier is the Fed. You think a baby that's been sucking on a pacifier for 2 years is gonna be happy when you take the pacifier away? Hell no, it's gonna cry, it's gonna scream, it's gonna kick, probably gonna spit in your eyes. But when you grab that pacifier from the baby's mouth, you have two options. Listen and wait for the baby to stop screaming and crying and grow the hell up, or return the pacifier to the baby's mouth. The problem is that the second solution is really just kicking the can down the road because that baby can't be an 18-year-old with a damn pacifier in its mouth. 10, 20, even 30% on a dime. It just takes one after-hours report to beat you down like a rabid dog. So in the last week of trading, the holy sheep is up about 58%. In your original capital, that's when it starts getting murky. That's when you start feeling, okay, hey, maybe it's time to start walking away. Ouch! But anyways, let's start with the bad news. So the CPI report was a complete disaster, and that's sugarcoating it. The Putin-Ukraine situation will be watched very, very closely. Any new piece of information has the ability to rock the markets. Putin so much as takes a sip of vodka, S&P down 5%. Putin takes a sip of vodka from Kiev, S&P down 25%. Okay, folks, so the tier of the Palin reported earnings today. Those futures are already looking mighty, mighty red. I hear that Putin may have bought some triple Q puts before the start of the weekend. Let's just say that perhaps what Russia's going to be losing in Western sanctions, they're going to be making up for in profits on those puts. Of course, that would be bad for Western powers, and I'm not advising Putin to do that. Of course, I know he watches the videos every single night and hits the ravishing like button with vodka. Moving on to Tuesday, you have Target, or as I like to call them, Target, which is a designer way of saying it. It makes it sound expensive. Kohl's, and then after, you've got SoFi. Lucid. We've had a long history, haven't we? From the day you were a baby SPAC named CCIV to the day you became a massive retail momentum stock, to then the day that you got massively beat down again, and then all of a sudden to the day that Serious Capital started taking you, well, seriously, and started investing in you in mass. And now once again in a down cycle where capital has been abandoning you. The relationship between Lucid and the stock market is quite a story of love and hate, and then love again, and then hate again. It's like a teenage relationship. The market is always quite fascinating. The worse things are feared to be, and the more time people are given to ruminate and speculate on it, the worse the market drops. But then when actually bad things happen, like an invasion of a major European country, international sanctions cutting off a huge supplier, or out-of-control energy prices accelerating already out-of-control inflation, the market's just like, yep, let's buy. It's really fantastic. You thought innovative tech stocks were bad. Ugh, this is a whole nother level, folks. Think about two scenarios. Somebody who goes and buys a terrible company with a terrible future that's going to fail dramatically in the upcoming 5 years, but buys that company during a good stock market, a market that allows it to go up for the next 3 months after he buys it. Well, guess what? That person who probably didn't do any due diligence on the company just made a nice return and feels like he's a genius. He got that instant gratification from that kicker, and he's probably never going to sell it either because he's like, well, I got to let my winner run. Goes around thinking he's the Albert Einstein of the stock market. Ooh, look at me, so smart. Charlie, why are you talking about things that are negative for the market? That's fun. I only want to hear things that are good about the market, like roses and berries. At this point, it's sort of like the Fed is a Ferrari that Jerome Powell is driving really fast downhill, and the American people are the passengers. It was fun for Jerome Powell to show off the acceleration of the car, and the engine roars from 0 to 60. It was kind of fun for him to show it 60 to 90. But now that it's going over 90 miles per hour and it's barreling downhill, Americans are like, you know, Jerome, are you gonna lay on the brakes a little bit? I'm getting kind of scared. And Jerome's like, look, no hands. Whee! House Speaker Nancy Pelosi tried making the case for Biden's Build Back Better social spending plan. She says that increased government spending is actually going to help bring down the national debt and is not going to be inflationary.
It's important to dispel some of those who say, well, it's the government spending. No, it isn't. The government spending is doing the exact reverse, reducing the national debt. It is not inflationary.
I don't know about you, but I would not want to be the person trying to convince the American people that somehow spending more money is going to bring down inflation and also reduce the national debt at the same time. I mean, that's just a little bit goofy. That's like putting someone on an all-cake diet when they're trying to lose weight and then seeing them gain all this weight and you're like, ooh, looking good, losing all that weight. And they're just like, really? Because all my clothes aren't fitting anymore. Except in this case, you can't afford any clothes because t-shirts now cost $500. Number two, some slightly good news in terms of the latest inflation report. I say good in quotations, because it's still bad, but it's better than expected. Did you know that the #1 cause of sudden Charlie sadness syndrome is having more than a quarter of our channel's watch time come from viewers who are not subscribed? Do not let Charlie succumb to sadness and become just another statistic. Hit that ravishing subscribe button today. In February, by far the biggest fear was hawkish central banks. Big bad meanie Jerome Powell. And then I want to present one $2 stock that is going parabolic right now. And I want to discuss whether it's good or garbage. So quite frankly, the financing situation and the company health is a complete disaster. Also, I just can't help myself. I know this is nitpicky and unscientific, but of course I did some digging on the CEO, and his LinkedIn picture is him sitting in what appears to be a private jet with a big watch, and it just kind of looks like he's trying to pitch me a timeshare, and quite frankly, I don't like timeshares. Next, our ALLG play was a beast today. I feel like Charlie of 2021 again. The way that I see it is that Nile is likely going to be a pump and dumpy style of trade, similar to the spiky that we saw last week when they announced the spinoff of Turn on Green. I'm always interested in new, unique, and historically effective ways to diversify my capital. I also tend to get very excited learning about new asset classes, although I am admittedly a bit of a slow learner. I took Spanish for 5 years, but I can barely say hola. Hola? If you even mentioned being bullish on tech 3 weeks ago, you got laughed out the building. Now it seems people just can't get enough of them. One of the major inflation drivers today had a bit of a massive cool-off today. A bit of a massive cool-off. Yep, that's a good way to describe it. And then for the main entree this lovely evening, I want to talk about what the hell just happened with Ooga Booga AMC as well as GME. A lot of folks are peeved after this morning a halt came in and stopped one of the most concentrated rallies they've seen in months. Ooga Booga AMC, isn't the market more fun when retail stocks start winning again? I think it's a lot more fun. Let me know in the comment section down below if you agree. Say Ooga Booga or something. Okay, let's go ahead and start with an update on the Marquetta. But for whatever reason, this guy has taken over and bulldozed over the bears. If you mess with the bull, you better be ready to deal with the horns. So the point is, you're going to get tons of catalysts and tons of different market conditions. Some market conditions are going to make all your catalysts run, and some market conditions are going to beat them all down like rabid dogs. Woof woof. If you don't have standards and clear entry and exit plans, you're going to be just throwing darts at a board. Imagine not having standards in your dating life. Oh, I'll go out with anybody that breathes, and then you're confused when your significant other that you just found goes out, dresses like a lobster, and fights crime on the beaches at night. Hey, you're asking for it. Have some damn standards. And by the way, if you're into that kind of thing, no judgment. GME, very similar situation, also rocketed into open, then got hit right after the halt. Now, obviously, I'm sure that retail traders were very thankful for the halt today. People were just having too much fun over too short a time period. Studies show that you can actually die from excitement. Excitement can trigger heart attacks, cardiac arrest, strokes, and other potentially fatal medical emergencies. Your body reacts to excitement in much the same way it reacts to feelings of fear or stress, by releasing hormones called adrenaline and noradrenaline. However, and this is the big catch here, too much adrenaline and noradrenaline can be dangerous to the heart, brains, and other organs. An enormous shock, whether positive or negative, can cause your heart to speed up, beat irregularly, or stop. And in patients with pre-existing heart disease, the fight or flight response can dislodge arterial plaques, sending blood clots to the heart, causing a heart attack, or to the brain, causing a stroke. So are you hearing this? AMC and GME rallying too much could literally cause your heart to stop beating. It could dislodge your arterial plaques. So I mean, when you think about it that way, halts aren't just about promoting market stability, but also about protecting public safety and public health. But of course, we as greedy, pathetic, and non-appreciative retail traders who try to steal from the big money aren't really appreciative of this. Costs are a lot scarier when you haven't even really started serving customers yet. I'm just saying you might not want to hold through earnings unless you have a slot machine fetish. But the market is quite a trickster, ain't she? Perhaps these last few weeks were just an elaborate April Fool's joke, and tomorrow she's gonna say, ha, just kidding. The market's like, not only did I April Fool you, but I also rug pulled you. That sounded better in my head. And it was hot. 5.4% year over year, which is the largest increase in nearly 40 years. This is, of course, excluding both food and energy prices. Imagine if we could do that when we're trying to get into shape. Hey doc, I don't know why I'm getting so fat. If you exclude food from my total calorie counts, I basically ate nothing this month. And the doctor's just like, oh, don't worry, your weight gain is only transitory. Let me tighten that belt a little bit, that'll fix the problem. It's not your food eating that's the problem. But yeah, inflation hot, inflation bad. The problem is that winning and losing comes in seasons. We fool ourselves into thinking after a killer year in the market that we're geniuses, we're stock market gods. We were born for this and we're always going to be right. And then when you have a bad year in the market, we fool ourselves into thinking, hey, we're just not cut out for it. We're terrible. We are pathetic losers. Okay, next, the tweeter, or as some people say, Twitter. So the Musk of Elon has discussed his worries on the infringement of free speech for a while. If you went to a reservoir that was 100% filled by rainwater and saw that it was full, you could actually conclude that, hey, it must have been a good rain year. Or if it wasn't full, you could say, oh, it was a bad rain year. But if you have massive artificial intervention, you can't do that. So the markets have shifted from fun in the sun to sad and mad. Market cap as of Friday's close was 144 million. Book value, which is assets minus liability, was at the same time 226 million. That means for every dollar you paid at that time, you're basically getting like $1.58 of actual book value. Or as short sellers say, a terrible deal and a huge ripoff. Overvalued, Sally. This should be worth zero. A dollar is not a dollar, it's $0. If it doesn't turn profitable fast, I could be underwater very, very quickly. If you're a short seller and you're paying 100+% in interest rates annualized, you're thinking, well, if this goes wrong, I'm probably gonna have to go and take my teenage daughter's pink Mercedes back to CarMax. Which means that short sellers simply sold shares short without actually having borrowed the shares. Welcome to the free and fair market, folks. To use an analogy, it's sort of like if you're in war and you send out 100% of your troops to a battle and it turns out that you can't win that battle with the troops that you sent out, but you don't have any troops left. So what do? Well, you send out a ghost army of soldiers that don't really exist. And then you end up winning the war. And then after you won, the enemy's like, hey, wait a second. Those weren't real soldiers that we were fighting. Those were fake. Your reinforcements didn't really exist. Does that make any sense to you? Because it sure doesn't make any sense to me. In the real world, invisible and fake soldiers that don't exist don't really do anything. But for some reason in the stock market, we're like, yeah, that makes sense. I think that's fair. That's what I have to admit. I always believe that government knows best. Where was the short seller conviction that we're seeing right now when this was trading at 45, 35, 25, 20 bucks? They didn't have any conviction because they're like, well, what if it goes back up? We don't really know what this is worth. We're just trying to play the trend. Now when Atter's on its very last legs and is a tenth of its all-time high share price, what happens? Well, short sellers are like, okay, time to bring out all the big guns. Also, quick plug, this video is sponsored by the dangerously handsome gentleman over at ZipTrader U. Hypothetical and an opinion and a speculation. But that was one of several main flags that set off the Charlie Dar this morning, the Charlie radar. Sometimes it feels like we are stuck in permanent Groundhog Day. And I snapped a picture of the groundhog and this is what he looks like. Don't let him bite you, he may or may not have rabies. Trading is a probability game. And eventually what goes up must go down. But you got to admit the setup is very, very interessante still. Winners are always going to end up eventually being the biggest losers. And I don't mean the TV show. For example, a big winner of ours from yesterday was Veru, and the Veruvians were very, very happy. You need to have a game plan or you're just gonna be looking all over the place and saying, ooh, that's running, what do I do? Ooh, that's dropping, ooh. Okay, main entree, I hope you're hungry. We gotta talk about Atter. This is a company whose CEO in the past has said that their preliminary data on illegal naked short selling showed 7 million naked shorts as of October 15th, in addition to 8.1 million shares officially sold short at that time. If that's true, that means that almost half of all shorted shares were naked short. Let me tell you, there's nothing pretty about a short seller with their junk hanging out. Apparently people like stocks again today. You got the sleepy Dow up 1%, the S&P up 1.12%, and the NASDAQ up 2%. I feel like the tech sector is run by bipolar parents. One day they wish the tech sector was never born, and the next day it's the golden child. Reasons for this? Well, think about what happens when you exercise a call option. The call option gets a six-pack and goes out and flirts with put options and hopes that he doesn't strike out. Versus back in the day when all the euphoria was around, people were like, yeah, any price is fine, just throw it into crypto, throw it into miners, throw it into anything. An organic candle salesman says he's getting into mining. Okay, here's $1 billion valuation. Speaking of organic candles, if you do want lifetime access to new ZipTrader aromas and some of the best candles you can buy that are very, very organic, as well as daily morning lighting sessions with Charlie, where we all talk about the different aromas and how they make us feel, we do have a very generous coupon code down below. Why live in a place that smells like skunk when you can light a Charlie candle and get good aromas? Over the last 12 months has been like watching a train slowly and painfully progress to a track that may eventually lead it off a cliff. And we all hope that they're going to be able to build more track or figure out how to reroute the damn train, but there's not much that we can do. We're just forced to sit in that train and say, oh, I hope that conductor knows what he's doing. But a select fewer of them I keep quiet about and watch them carefully from afar like a predator watches his prey. I like to imagine myself as a tiger, and the minute I see a runner, I want to grab it before it gets away or some other animal, some other vicious animal eats it. Today about is the setup on ApeCoin. It sounds stupid, yes, but so do most things. But it's quickly climbed to number 27 in market cap at about $5 billion, and that's not chump change. I know a lot of people are thinking, with inflation, $5 billion, that ain't what it used to be. You need $44 billion to buy a low-tier social media network these days. Now, what actually is it though? Well, ApeCoin is built to underlie the Bored Ape Yacht Club, which is a very popular ape-themed NFT collection known for its extravagant prices and high demand. In times of trouble, people start dumping risky assets like, for example, homes or stock in big companies, and they buy things that they know are always going to hold their value, like, for example, a monkey metaverse token. Whereas in 2022, you're in the situation where institutionals haven't wanted to touch anything on the bullish side when it comes down to small caps. Small caps are kind of considered the herpes of 2022.